It's 4 o'clock on a Monday. You know what that means. It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi TV Live. Woohoo! And thank you, band. Thank you, audience. And welcome, you guys. I just got back from a week of vacation, and I am excited to be with you. And can't say that I'm glad to be back at work because my wife and kids and I were skiing in Mammoth, California, and I can't believe that in the 25 or 26 years that I have lived in the wonderful state of California, that I never bothered to ski in Mammoth, which is a world-class ski resort that is incredibly awesome. And it's only a 5-hour drive if you do 78 miles per hour. Not that I exceeded the speed limit, but I'm just saying if you were to do 78 miles an hour on cruise control, that from the Lasco residence to Mammoth Lakes, California, it would take you 5 hours. And what a beautiful drive it is, because it is the High Sierra Desert on one side of you and the Sierra Mountain Range, Eastern Sierra Mountain Range on the other side, which looks just like the Rockies with snow caps all the way up. So it was pretty wonderful. And no, Hannah was not driving. Hannah was sitting in the back seat with my daughter Gabriella, who's 13. I should say 13 and a half, sorry. And they were either watching movies on a laptop or listening to music on their mobile devices and pretty much ignoring Deb and I. And Deb and I were busy going, "Ooh, look at that. Ooh, look at that." A couple times I ran off the road. Thank goodness they have those little ridges on the side of the road. They must anticipate idiots like me looking at the snow-capped mountains. I mean, they're everywhere, and it goes on forever. And then you have Joshua trees on both sides of you, and old mining towns, and a few antique stores, and Schatz's Danish Bakery in the town of Bishop, California. So, all in all, pretty wonderful. Let me give a shout out to Patrick, the general manager of the Westin Monache, Monache, Westin Monache Resort up there. We had some Westin points, so we decided to go up there and use them. And sure enough, when we got up there, our room was a little small, and I went down to the front desk with my taxi business card and said, "I do a big convention every year at the Westin LAX." And turns out Patrick, the GM, used to work at the Westin LAX and remembered me, and another nice young lady whose name I won't mention because she's the one that actually pulled the strings and upgraded us to a nicer room. So the Lasco family was very comfortable thanks to them, and the resort is wonderful, and the mountain is incredible, and the skiing was wonderful. And I only worked 3 or 4 hours a day. And then from Friday at noon until Sunday at 1 p.m. when we left, I didn't work at all. It was incredibly wonderful. So there you go. I'm just checking in to see who's in the room, in the house. So this is going to be a really, really good episode. I think that people are going to learn a lot, and I'm really excited to do this because I've known Adonis Electress. He is the gentleman who provided me, whoops, there she is, with this love. It's hard to see her, actually. But yes, it's a statue of a naked lady. I believe it's Venus. And Adonis, let's see, it doesn't say in the bottom, but yes, I believe it's Venus, the goddess of love. And Adonis Electress has been a member now for just about 5 years, and he is from the island of Cyprus. And if you read the taxi newsletter, I think that went out recently, something I know, I included a blurb. It was on the April 1st listings, and that was no April Fool's joke. Adonis lives like, I don't know, 7,000 miles from LA, far, far, far away. And yet this guy is becoming very, very successful, and I could not be more proud because, first of all, he's a really sweet, good person. Second of all, he's a very hard-working man. He's not watching the show, by the way, because it's the middle of the night in Greece, so he apologized for not showing up. Um, anyway, he's going to watch the archive of the show later. But I met Adonis, I think 4 years ago, maybe at his first road rally, and he was just bounding with energy and just so positive. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it. And here we are, 4 years later. And I got this letter from him, which I included, but I know not everybody reads everything I email you guys, so I'm going to read it really quickly. Dear Michael, I know how much you love reading about the placements that taxi members get on film and TV, so I thought I'd write and put a smile on your face. My last BMI statement, presumably for just 1/4 I included, was bursting with taxi-related placements. I'm just going to rattle off the shows really quickly. Nitro Circus on MTV, Robin Big on MTV, The Real World, Explosion MTV, America Now, Animal Planet, America's Next Top Model. 1,000 placements on America's Next Top Model so far. Duck Dynasty, 800 plus placements so far. Bar Rescue, It's a Brad World, Chef Robley and Company, Dukes of Huggle, Restaurant Redemption, Hollywood Treasure, Here Comes Honey Boo Boo, $1 Million Decorators, Real Vice Miami, Shark Week, big favorite, Swamp Wars, Snapped, Killer Couples, Toddlers and Tiaras. Most of the above also earned royalties in Canada, Finland, Mexico, Norway, the UK, and France. My work ethic is the same, hard work in parentheses, but all those wonderful gigs came about from taxi forwards and the road rally. Eternally grateful, Adonis Electress from Elegancia, Cyprus. And you know what? He is the kind of guy who is eternally grateful. I remember him bringing a tear to my eye once when I got an email from him saying that times were tough there because of the economy. And if I remember correctly, they had to buy new beds for their kids, or maybe a bed for a kid. I don't remember how many beds exactly. And times were tough. Money was tight. And Adonis got a quarterly check for PRO from his PRO, presumably. He said, did he say BMI in there? I think he did. Yes, from BMI. Okay, and whatever the PRO is in Cyprus, and that afforded them the ability to buy their kid a new bed. So that choked me up, gotta say. And I was very happy to hear that news. And I'm very happy to know Adonis because he is, I always say he's the kind of guy that I created Taxi for. So I emailed him over the weekend and said, hey, you know what? Can you send me 10 pieces of your music, all instrumental stuff, so that our members can once again get a really good idea of the kind of stuff that libraries, mostly libraries that get placements on reality TV shows, but certainly not limited to that. But I want our viewers to get an idea of the range of styles, the type of instrumentation, the type of production, the hit points or edit points that you hear us reference or see us reference in listings all the time, and what buttoned endings are. So he was kind enough to put this list of 10 songs together, and he sent me notes so that I asked him if he'd give me a sentence or two for each one. So I am going to play this stuff for you. I'm going to crank up my monitors a little bit. There we go. And are you guys ready to hear some great music from our friend Adonis Electress? I know I am. So the first piece that I'm using the two screens again this week. If I were really smart, I would move this one over here so I don't have to crane my neck quite so far. This is like real TV, except cheaper. Okay, so I'm going to play this stuff for you, and here we go. Scott Hansen says, tonight's Taxi TV dinner menu, they're serving Kung Pao chicken and shrimp served over sauteed veggies with a sweet black bean sauce, hot and sour soup, egg roll, and an ice-cold Tsingtao beer. Sounds good, Scott. Man, wish I could eat some of that while I'm doing the show. Actually, you know what I really wish? I wish I could hit the men's room. I was so running late that I forgot to go to the men's room before the show. So if you see me doing this a lot, you'll know why. All right, the first track from our friend Adonis Electress is called Foreign Tales. This was written for shows that need big toms with orchestral drama. Oh, by the way, I think he mentioned to me in our email exchange over the weekend that, yeah, so much for not working on vacation, huh? I think he mentioned to me that all these have been money earners for him. So everything you're going to hear, I believe, has been in a TV show, many TV shows. This one's called Foreign Tales, written for shows that need big toms with orchestral drama, used extensively by Discovery in Shark Week. Many editor-friendly stops and starts, and it has a buttoned ending. Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud, there we go, to play for you Foreign Tales. There was an easy edit point, if ever I heard one. Notice different instrument sound introduced, new layer. Totally hear this in Shark Week. Yay. Whoops. And that was the buttoned ending, by the way. Pretty darn good, wouldn't you say? Tells the story. Conveys that emotion of, I guess, danger, intensity, you know. Mojo says structure is a bit unusual because there's a third division before the theme returns. It's not a lot. You can only have two. It is something that frequently happens that you may only have like an A part and a B part. Worth mentioning, by the way, you probably see us mention the word motif in a lot of listings. Motif is a melodic theme. And so notice how it repeated that and then added layers, and there you go. I can't tell you what samples he's using because he is sleeping while we're doing the show. But I'll tell you what, he's going to watch the archive, and if I know Adonis, he's such a generous, good dude that he will probably send me, Adonis, don't go to the trouble of giving us the instruments on every single thing you did, but just, you know, if you could shoot me an email that generally lists the libraries that you use, I will try and mention it on the next episode of Taxi TV, so you have a reason to come back and watch next week. Okay. Yeah, a lot of you guys are asking what software. We'll find out next week. Okay, so this next track, which I've already sadly previewed, and I can't find the rewind button on SoundCloud. The next track is called Hickory Hop. It was written exclusively for Duck Dynasty, and it's been used hundreds of times. So keep watching Duck Dynasty, and you will undoubtedly hear this. Simple banjo melody with hip-hop beats enhanced the comedic nature of the show without clashing with the dialogue. And he did the word without in all caps, like we like to do around here. You don't want to clash with the dialogue, and a show like that has a lot of dialogue, and frankly, because the folks on Duck Dynasty speak with a very thick southern accent, sometimes you got to pay attention. And you don't want music that is getting in the way of the dialogue, and as Adonis says in his notes, less is more, and it has a button ending. I'm going to try and take this back. There you go. Hickory Hop. Button ending. Easy to edit. Instrumentation sounded like bass, drum kit using a rim shot, banjo, fiddle. I think I got it all in there. That's a real banjo, right? I'm guessing it probably is. My recollection is that Adonis is adept at both stringed and keyboarded instruments. I think he's a pretty high-end guitarist, if memory serves correctly, so I would not be surprised if that was him playing a real banjo. Anyway, you get the idea. I mean, it's been used, what did he say, hundreds of times in Duck Dynasty, which is the #1 show in its time slot in America, and I think is seen all over the world, so he probably makes some good back end on that sucker. How we doing? Is the level okay on your end? Can you guys hear this stuff? Okay. Joe Gothard says, interesting how a guy from the nation of Cyprus has the USA twang thing down. Mojo says #1 cable show in its time slot. I think it actually kicks, if I'm not mistaken, I heard somewhere that it actually beats some of the broadcast network shows in that time slot, which upsets them quite a bit. And oh, I see Keith Lynch is in the house. Hey, Keith, I just got an email from Rob saying that the preamps just came in on Friday, and somebody should have let you know that already. Okay, so everybody says level is good. Andy Cabbage says that Adonis is from the country part of Cyprus. There you go. He's from the talented part of Cyprus, I think. Okay, so now we're moving on to the third track, which is called High Heels. Oh, by the way, he did mention in one of the emails that he is big on naming his titles so that they telegraph what the music might sound like. Um, so this is called High Heels. Now, when you think of high heels, I think of maybe the Kardashians or maybe the Housewives of Orange County or one of those housewifey shows. Um, let's see. Oh gosh, Desperate Housewives. There's another one where the ladies might have worn high heels from time to time. Um, Maybe some model shows. I'm cheating right there because I see that he says hip hop dramedy is very popular in many reality shows. Hip hop dramedy music. Remember that. Write that down. Try and make some hip hop dramedy music right after tonight's show, okay? Marimba and pizzicato strings with hip hop beats give the necessary sneaky feel. Sneaky. Woohoo. Um, Used extensively. This track has been used extensively in America's Next Top Model when the models did quirky, sneaky things to each other. You know what they say, never trust a model. Anybody who, oh, never mind, I won't get into their eating habits or what they do with their food after they eat it, but you know how those models are. They sneak off to the bathroom and God only knows what they do in there. So, we are going to listen to the song or the track High Heels by Adonis Electress. Here we go. Come on. Yikes, where's the pause button? There it is. Yay. Almost missed that one. And the pause button. Okay, so that was High Heels, hip hop dramedy, marimba, pizzicato strings, hip hop beats. You probably remember me mentioning this on previous shows. There is a huge, huge market for real hip hop, like street hip hop, the authentic real deal. It's hard to come by because so much of the real deal has samples that wouldn't clear in the TV world. But we get asked for hip hop all the time, and I think not enough members pay attention to the hip hop opportunities. We've got tons of them. Frankly, we could probably make some phone calls and get tons more, but we don't get a lot of submissions for hip hop stuff. The members have told me that they create what is called Oprah Hop, which goes back to the days when a lot of Taxi members had tons of music on the Oprah Winfrey show. So I would call it like hip hop for the flyover states, not authentic street hip hop, but a hip hop beat. And my sources tell me that part of the plan or part of the strategy for success with hip hop is use the canned beats but bastardize them. Go in and edit the beats using your MIDI controllers so that you don't have the same exact hip hop beat that everybody else who got that same software has. So combine a couple of things, subtract a hi-hat beat, add a hi-hat beat, add other interesting sounds, replace sounds, keep the same beats and replace sounds. Do whatever you can to make it not sound like everybody else's stuff. And then in the case of this, had pizzicato strings and marimba. I think I heard some horn pads in there. Put it all together, and what you got was a piece of music that told a story. It sounded sneaky and funny, did it not? So there you go. Eminently usable, really perfect for the market and what he was trying to accomplish. Hats off to Mr. Adonis Electress. All right. By the way, I want to give a shout out to Adonis's wife and kids for being so supportive of him. I'm telling you guys, when I see him at the Road Rally every year, the guy brings joy to my heart. All the other members really, really like him, and he talks about you guys. When he's in LA, he talks about his family a lot, so you should know that, and that's the sign of a good man, I think. The next one is called Melon Jack. I'm not so sure what the title. I'm really not sure. Are you talking about Jack Daniels mixed with watermelon? I don't know what the title of that one indicates, but look, I'm pretty sure English is Adonis's second language, and he may be aware of something that I'm not aware of because my English not so good. But this is his notes say California easy vibe with cool beats, horns, and quirky chord changes. Remember that when we listen, quirky chord changes. Used in reality shows and road trip shows. Underline that. Reality shows and road trip shows is a mood setter for the location. It's got a buttoned ending. Okay, setting a location. As soon as the editor cuts to another scene, let's say that we're watching a reality show and it's a couple of buddies doing a road trip, and the last time we saw them, they were just coming out of the courthouse in some little town in Kansas that they got arrested for an illegal lane change or something. And the local sheriff took them in and they paid their $150 and they got bailed out of jail. They're continuing the road trip, and the next edit takes you to them back in their car, back out on a 2-lane highway with tumbleweeds a-blowing. Now, I'm not sure what this piece of music sounds like, so I'm not sure it'd be right for what I just described. But the point is, it's a scene change. Well, if the music changes and it can set you up to say, okay, we're on a 2-lane highway, dusty 2-lane highway with tumbleweeds a-blowing out in the Midwest somewhere. You can emphasize that. You can highlight it. You can underline it. You can accentuate it by having the appropriate music with the scene change. So editors love that kind of stuff. Now let's have a listen to Melon Jack, and this is from our friend Adonis Electress. Oh yeah, not Kansas. This is California. Yikes, where's that button? There it is. Oops, got a note and a half of the next one. Okay, so there you go. That was Melon Jack, and that is a California easy vibe with cool beats, horns, and quirky chord changes. used in reality shows and road trip shows as a mood setter for the location. And it had a button ending, of course. The next one is called Next to Impossible. I think by reading this that we're going to get to hear Adonis play guitar in this one. Next to Impossible is a heavy rock metal slasher hyphen metal vibe used extensively in Hollywood Treasure in scenes where there's a lot of commotion either by the characters or when there's movement by one part of the city to the other. So if they're going from, let's say, I'm guessing Hollywood Treasure, that, let's say they're on Hollywood Boulevard and then they're going to Santa Monica and they want to show movement, that it's gone from one location to another. I'm presuming, without having heard this track yet, that is what it's supposed to accomplish. So let's have a listen to Next to Impossible. I'm going to pause that for a second right there. I'm going to go back and play you that section. Now you could cut, and use this little area is the intro to something. Let's say you're starting a scene in a new location and you're going around a corner and revealing some other part of the scene. Right there, you're in, and cut. Yay. Now remember, he said this was a heavy rock metal vibe, and some of you are commenting sounds 80s. Well, when was metal probably the most popular? In the 80s. So there you go. Doesn't necessarily mean that there was a hairband guy in the shot, but yeah. I mean, if you're talking Hollywood Boulevard, there are parts of Hollywood Boulevard that I believe might still be stuck in the 80s. His tones are so cool. Yep, they are. And what's cool is, I mean, clearly he's using, Easy Drummer or whatever, one of the great drum programs that are out there. And he's combining humanity and electronics. So it doesn't sound, some of the tracks that we get from the members are pretty impressive on a compositional level. And you take note of it, go, wow, that's pretty impressive on a compositional level. But then you notice they're very rigid and stiff feeling, and the whole thing sounds canned. So just by adding some humanity, a real person playing real guitar parts over drums from a can makes it sound believable and usable, right? Okay. The next one is called Pretty Dress, and it is hip-hop dramedy with an emphasis on pizzicato strings. So there we are, back to dramedy again, which dramedy, obviously dramedy is the combination of drama and comedy. I think a lot of the reality shows like America's Next Top Model. Hell, probably 80% of the reality shows have elements of drama and comedy in them. With emphasis on pizzicato strings. Some orchestral elements add more class to the hip hop beats. So what he's saying is hip hop doesn't have enough class of its own, but if you add orchestral stuff, it adds some class to it. Used in scenes where sneakiness is needed in a more upscale environment. Okay, so we're now talking about the Housewives of Orange County, because that's upscale. They got the big dollars because they married attorneys. Here we go. This is called Pretty Dress. All right, that was called Pretty Dress, and definitely upscale hip hop beat. The hip hop beat, it's everywhere. It doesn't sound like hip hop. You don't, shut your eyes and imagine some guy with a boombox on his shoulder. But it's got a hip hop beat because hip hop is very much in the mainstream and has been for a while. I don't think it's going anywhere soon. I saw, where did it go? Oh, man. Something about my neighbors. We're talking about the classy women married to attorneys. I think it was Mojo that said Lasco's neighbors. And I got to say, I live in a cul-de-sac, I believe, of 9 homes, and I am proud to say that there is not one attorney anywhere on the block. We've got a guy who works, he's vice president of a printer cartridge recycling company, retired banker, another guy who works at a bank mostly remotely from his house, former HR guy for Pep Boys, lives across the street from me, another guy who's a scientist at Amgen, an accountant next door, and another gentleman who's retired that worked at a company that built the explosive devices for airbags to pop out of your steering wheel and give you black eyes and a bloody nose rather than a dead body. So there's my exciting neighborhood. I don't know what yours is like, but nope, we don't have any lawyers on my street. Not that upscale. Okay, the next track is called Quirkylicious. Now see, there's a good example of a title that tells you you're going to hear a really cool piece of quirky music. All right? This is quirky hip hop. What a surprise. Requested by a publisher for an MTV show where women fight each other. I don't consider hip hop my A game, but I took the challenge nonetheless. The publisher loved it, and so did the editor of the show. It was used dozens of times. Many editor-friendly stops and starts, and of course, it has a button ending. So let's have a listen to Quirkylicious. Here we go. stop, and a start. Same rhythm, different instrumentation, gives a little different emotion. Yay. All right, and Popeye5150 says, Michael, is this gracious success story taxi member willing to volunteer cash flow? 6 figures resulting from all these placements? I have no idea, frankly. As long as I've known Adonis, I don't think he's ever disclosed his income to me. I generally don't ask members. There's a range. There are a lot of taxi members out there that have become successful in the last 5 years or so because they come to the road rally, they watch taxi TV, they hang out on the forum, they co-write with other members, they do all the right stuff, and the cool thing is that they gain momentum. They're like a snowball rolling downhill. They keep getting bigger and bigger and going faster and faster. I would say that there are tons of members out there that make hundreds to thousands of dollars a year, like 200 to 5,000 or 10,000 a year. There are a lot of members that do that. There are also a lot of members that make in the 20 to 30, $40,000 range. There are some members I know who've clearly broken the 6-figure mark. It depends on how productive you are, how many cues a day or a week you do, how well you target your stuff. Again, this goes back to Adonis understands the formula of what the shows need. He watches the shows, I'm sure. He takes notes and says, aha, sneaky women, pizzicato strings, marimba, hip-hop beat, puts it all together. He may come up with 3 or 4 different melodic themes, motifs, and put together 3 or 4 or 5 different tracks in a week that are all similar, 4 different libraries, different shows, but they're all basically the same thing. I'm just guessing at that, but probably not a terrible guess. But he knows what they want, and he gives it to them, and he works at it every day. Now, some of you guys may have a day job. People have day jobs. They have families. They have lives. So maybe right now you could only do 1 of these a week. But the trick is to keep doing it consistently and build up a catalog. And I hate it when people say, my publisher. Don't stick with just one publisher, because publishers go through peaks and valleys, and they may have a really good, successful year right now, maybe next year not so successful. They fall in and out of favor, their catalogs work or they don't work as well, depending on the shows that are on the air and what they've got in the catalogs, a lot of variables, who they know, people lose jobs, get jobs. All those variables go into the mix of what gets your music used. So don't just have a publisher. People want to gravitate to the first publisher that gives them love and says, I love your stuff. I want to sign this. What else do you have? And you send them 12 other tracks, and they put the 12 other tracks or songs in that catalog. Then you've got my publisher, or the my publisher syndrome. You'd be much wiser to also get your stuff out into 3, 4, 5, or 10 other catalogs. That way you're hedging your bets. Some of the catalogs are going to stiff and do nothing for a year or 2. Other catalogs are going to do really, really well. But don't run like a herd of sheep, being one person, and put everything you've got into that one catalog, because that catalog may not be as popular or successful or productive the next year. Spread your bets around, okay? Please take that advice. Stay productive, spread your bets. Just catching up on what's going on. Mojo says, it takes a long time and a lot of sustained effort. Yeah, he's right. He's absolutely right. Mojo is wise. He really is. I've always adored Mojo because he just gets right to the essence of stuff, and he's correct in saying that. Look, you can't be great or successful or make a lot of money at anything if you don't do it every day. You gotta friggin' work at it. It blows my mind when people expect success because they've made a couple of good tracks. There was somebody on the forum I saw while I was on vacation. Actually, kind of ticked me off because I shouldn't have gone on the forum while I was on vacation, but you know me. I like to take care of the members. And I read this gentleman started a thread about more transparency needed at Taxi? Question mark. And his question was basically, look, I've been forwarded 60 times. I think one particular track, if I remember this correctly, had been forwarded 24 times. And he was wondering about the credibility of the companies that we forward music to because his track hadn't been used yet or signed or offered a deal yet. 60 forwards over a period, I'm guessing, of a year or so. Maybe a couple of years, I don't know, but you know what? It just wasn't the right thing for the right time. And he was saying, can't you guys reach out to the companies and say, well, why aren't you using my track? What about it isn't working? And no, the truth of the matter is, on rare occasions, yeah, we get a little feedback from the companies. But for the most part, man, if they had to, if they get their music from 3, 4, 5, 10 different sources, and Taxi is one of them, if each one of those sources had to question why they didn't use each submission that they sent to them, that multiplies geometrically very quickly. And they have much better things to do with their time than worry about somebody who's worrying why they haven't been used yet. And I know that I've written this gentleman who's a nice guy. I'm sure he's a nice guy. And said to him, he's a singer-songwriter, and the stuff that he does, it comes out more slowly than somebody like Adonis, who does instrumental tracks probably on a pretty regular schedule. So yeah, if you choose that artist, singer-songwriter path and you produce music much more slowly, the deals are going to happen less frequently and come much slower because of the amount of stuff that you've got out there. So yeah, he's had one piece forwarded 24 times. There is no magic number. It's not like, on the 23rd forward, you're going to get a deal. Sometimes, you've all seen it on the forum where people have submitted to a Taxi dispatch listing and literally found out in 24 hours that whoever it was that ran the listing wanted to use their piece even before our database cranked out the email going out to the member saying, hey, guess what? You got forwarded to this listing party. They were offered a deal. So sometimes it happens on the first try, brand new member, first try, overnight. Other times, you could have a piece of music that's forwarded 100 times. It doesn't mean that your piece of music sucks by any stretch of the imagination. If it's making it past the Taxi screeners, it's obviously very good. It probably just wasn't right for that particular scene or that moment or that library owner's taste. There's so many variables that go into it. But I do contend that if you are the kind of member that Adonis Electress is, that works at it every day and has a plan and has his own little internal formula and understands the market. Look, you're trying to sell something. It's called marketing. If you're trying to sell skis or helmets or ski gloves or car tires or ceiling tiles, whatever you're trying to sell, you certainly want to know what it is that people that buy ceiling tiles or skis or helmets or gloves, you want to know what they want. They want warm gloves. Do they want mittens or do they want gloves with fingers? Ceiling tiles, do they want stuff that looks like popcorn or do they want stuff that looks like, I don't know, turn of the century tin ceiling? You got to know what your market wants and then just simply manufacture what they want and give it to them. And some people might say that that is formulaic and, ooh, I don't want to do that. I want to be artistic. So what? Do them both. Doing the formulaic stuff that the market wants that pays you money and puts food on your table does not preclude you from doing the artistic stuff. You can cut out time for both. Okay? Thank you very much. Goodbye. Okay, moving on to more Adonis Electress music. We're now going to listen to Trouble in the Neighborhood. Talk about a title that gives it away. He says, same comments as High Heels, used in a lot of America's Top Model. Next Top Model, pardon me, ladies. Hip hop dramedy, marimba, pizzicato strings, hip hop beats, sneaky feel. So this is Trouble in the Neighborhood. Let's have a listen. Come on. There we go. Trouble in the Neighborhood. It sounds like trouble's a brewing, right? Love that part. Same motif, more layers, more dynamic. Button. There you go. Perfect. I mean, we can. I don't see anybody disagreeing in the chat room. That I mean, this guy knows what he's doing. Adonis gets it. I think a lot of people have the talent to do this, but they're not focused enough. They don't see what is the purpose of what I'm going to record today. No, I'm just going to sit down and create art. That's okay. Create art for your art market. But if you want to do instrumental TV cues, watch some television. Come on, I am the opposite of your parents. Your parents told you don't watch TV, it's going to rot your brain. Guess what? They were wrong. Watch TV. It can put food on your table. Okay, we are now moving on to Adonis's track called Unfathomable. Like that one. Hybrid orchestral tension music underscores mystery and tension scenes. What's going to happen next? Is the shark going to attack? Notice the melodic buildup, used extensively by the Discovery Channel and Shark Week. Everybody loves Shark Week. Many editor-friendly stops and starts and a button ending. Do we see a theme? Every one of these tracks has stops and starts or edit points or hit points, whatever you want to call them, and they all have button endings. Every one of them. Adonis is not trying to show what a musical genius he is and embarrass any of the great composers of the world by showing them how brilliant he is. He is writing for the editor. He's writing for the music supervisor. He's writing for the audience and the storyline. Let's have a listen to Unfathomable. That was my shark. Easy edit point. All right, that was Unfathomable. Think about it. Sharks, water, fathoms, depth, unfathomable. Play on words. Um, Last night after we got home from vacation, after I drove 5 hours or so, dropped my wife and kids off at the house, brushed my teeth, put on a clean shirt, and met my dear friend Tony Van Veen, who is the CEO of Disc Makers and CD Baby. We've known each other for a very long time, and we're very good friends. Our families know each other. And he was going to be in town for 24 hours and called and said, hey, let's get together for dinner. So we got together for dinner at a fish place on Pacific Coast Highway at 8:30 last night, and we were done. We were hanging out in the parking lot. Tony showed me the most amazing shots. He just went on a vacation where he went scuba diving. He grew up in Aruba and I think has spent countless hours scuba diving. And he had a shot of underwater looking up at a school of hammerhead sharks with, like, I don't know, 50 to 100 hammerhead sharks, probably 30 feet above him. So Tony is a very brave guy. I once went diving in the cave of the sleeping sharks off of Cozumel. There's an opening about the size of a manhole cover, and this 15-year-old kid that was giving me the tour, dragged me by the wrist through the manhole cover opening in the ocean floor, and there is a cave that was roughly, I don't know, 20 feet by 20 feet underwater. There's a freshwater spring that bubbles up through the floor of the ocean, and the sharks go down there, and it's like a sleeping pill to them, and because the water bubbles up through their gills and oxygenates them, and they just lay there like. And I remember getting dragged through this opening by this kid, and I was a pretty experienced scuba diver at the time. I used to dive a lot in my probably late teens to early 20s, and had hundreds of hours in the water under my belt, and had seen sharks plenty of times. But seeing, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 of them all in this enclosed space, like, 20 by 20 foot space, I remember screaming into my regulator, and the kid is like holding onto my wrist, dragging me, come on, come in here. So I've had enough of Shark Week in real life. Anyway, that was Unfathomable. And now we're moving on to Unquestionable. And this is hip, cool tension music. Underscores mystery and tension scenes. Also has a buttoned ending. Some call it button ending. I call it buttoned. There's a button. This and this are buttoned. Unlike the top button. Got to see the cool orange t-shirt today. All right. Unquestionable. One of those looking through the microscope in the lab scenes at blood samples. Or it could be searching a building for something. It could be a lot of stuff. Yikes. Oops. Well, guess what the next one's going to sound like? Okay, that was Unquestionable. And we're moving on to the last one. Look at that. I did a show in an hour. What was I going to say? Somebody said, where was it? I'm scanning. Man, this thing moves so fast sometimes. About the most dangerous animal in the world getting trampled by hippies. I didn't know that hippies were dangerous. Okay. Anyway, hippos. Got it. Okay, let me try and drag this little. Yeah, it's not going to work. Here, I'll go down this way and do it this way. Okay, so this last track is called When in Rome. It's in Italian-inspired music with a cool beat. Everything Adonis does has a cool beat. Up-tempo groove with mandolins, instant mood location setter. Think about this. Oh, I should mention, this has been used hundreds of times in cooking and travel shows. And it has, of course, button ending. Think about that. If you're watching anything on the Travel Channel, they're always in a place. They need music to tell you what the place is. Hear that? Oh, it just stopped. There's a horn. Somebody's alarm going off in the parking lot. There's a place. It's a parking lot. You know that when you hear that horn honking. Andrew Zimmern or Anthony Bourdain or Amanda Brown, is that her name? Samantha Brown. Or the food contest guy. I mean, you know, they could be in New Orleans, they could be in Kansas City, they could be in Chicago, they could be in New York, they could be in LA. Each one of those American cities has music that would probably be appropriate for setting the tone and giving you the location. European-wise, I mean, you know, what are you going to hear in Poland or Russia or the Czech Republic versus what you would hear in Italy or Greece or Cyprus? Or what are you going to hear in South America, Peruvian pan flutes? So think about that. Watch a show that I actually like, and I can't remember, it hasn't been on in months now. Piper Perabo, what show? She plays a CIA agent. The show's actually gotten better over time. Anyway, she travels a lot. She ends up being a CIA agent going on, you know, it's amazing how CIA agents always fly first class. And even when, where does Jason Bourne get the money? Where does Jason Bourne? I mean, the guy's been excommunicated from Treadstone. Everybody wants to kill his ass, yet the guy's always got money. That guy jumps on more planes and hops from country to country to country more than anybody I know. My wife and I were listening to a book on tape, a Jason Bourne thing in the car while the kids had their earbuds in. And all of a sudden it got pornographic, you know, it talked about a lady's thighs and a certain position she was in. And just almost instantly the kids pop the earbuds out and go, what did they just say? It's a pretty funny moment. Had to be there. Anyway, we couldn't listen to a lot of the Jason Bourne thing, but man, that guy's on airplanes all the time. Where does he get? It's not like the CIA credit card still works, okay? All right, so now we're going to listen to Adonis's track, the last one that he was so kind to provide me with. Thank you, Adonis. And thank you, Adonis's family, for giving him the time to put this stuff together for today's show. This is called When in Rome, Italian-inspired music with a cool beat, up-tempo groove with mandolins. Instant mood location setter used hundreds of times, okay? Hundreds, I tell you. Let's have a listen. Where did it go? When in Rome. stop. Okay. Um, Thank you. And that was called When in Rome by Adonis Electress, and it was perfect. You can hear that being used in cooking shows, um, travel shows. What was the name of the spy show? Covert Affairs. If the blonde lady from Covert Affairs gets off the plane in Italy and she's on a little scooter and she's buzzing through Rome on the scooter, you could hear this playing. Excuse me, there's my weekly rock star burp. Excuse me, classy guy that I am. Somebody asked a really good question. I don't know the answer. I'm going to guess at the answer. Somebody asked, does Adonis play all the parts himself? I would imagine that he plays most of the parts himself. My guess is that if he needs something played that he doesn't feel competent or good enough on, that he reaches out to his friends from the Taxi Forum and sends them the track, and they send him back a Peruvian pan flute part or whatever it is that he may not be able to play. But I'm guessing that he probably plays 80 or 90% of the parts himself. Just a guess. I think I'm right. And I think that's probably true for many of our successful members, that they play a lot of the stuff, but we have some members who are incredibly talented on keyboards and in the studio with their production chops and everything, but they can't play guitar, just never learned how, or don't play well enough to do the particular part that they're in need of for that particular track. They reach out to other Taxi members. I know members that trade favors back and forth. They may not pay each other for the part, but a guitar player plays a part for this guy, and then that guy plays a keyboard part for the guitar player later on. Maybe they end up collaborating, co-writing. Happens all the time. That's what the community is for. Mojo says that he knows that Matt Hurt collabs with a lot of instrumentalists. Absolutely. Um, and I've got to say it again. The listings, the variety of listings, and the quality of the listings that we are cranking out these days are the best that I think they've ever been for this company. And we know how many people open those emails, and I can tell you, not enough members open the emails for the listings. And I'm not talking about the one-off listings. We do those one-off listings because the subject lines are attractive to people. If people are instrumental composers and they see a subject line that says, reminder, Italian instrumentals needed by tomorrow, the people who are capable of doing Italian instrumentals really appreciate those, pop them open and go, almost forgot about that. Why? Because they didn't look at the full set of listings on the 1st or 15th. Also, we get, on average, probably every single day, a new listing that comes in that is the turnaround time is short enough that we couldn't run it. Let's say we get a listing, what's today's date? The 7th, I think? We get a listing on the 7th, and the music supervisor needs it in his or her hands by the 13th, 14th, 15th. We've got a deadline for the 10th, 11th, or 12th, and turn it around and get it to them in time. We can't put it in the next set of listings on the 15th. So we started running listings kind of as they came in. If they were the kind of listings, if the timeline didn't allow us to run it long enough that we could include it in the next set of listings, we put them out on a daily basis rather than turn them down. So cumulatively, we have many more listings than we've ever had in the company's history. The quality of the listings are better than they've ever been in the company's history. The quality of the entities running those listings better than they've ever been in the company's history. And I also get a little freaked out because even though we're talking about film and TV music today, we have so many incredibly good indie labels. I mean, like indie labels you would want to be signed to that I don't think all that many people are submitting to because they don't read the listings. Again, we can tell, we can look at our email providers, back end. It didn't come out exactly right, but you know what I mean. And see how many people open up particular emails. So there are opportunities that are flying by and people just don't bother to check them out. And then they go, man, Taxi doesn't have enough listings in my category. Yeah, we do, probably, but you're not seeing them because you're not looking. You gotta open up the emails. Peter D says he loves the reminder emails. And I will tell you guys that we are currently working on a plan which will finally allow us to send you the email, the reminders or listings that are in the categories of your choice. So if you don't do orchestral music, you won't get the daily updates. You'll still get the big listings on the 1st and 15th, but you won't get the stuff that comes out on a daily basis. We call them special listings. That if you don't do orchestral, you don't have to get the orchestral listings. But if you do reality show instrumental music, you will get those. So there you go. I don't know that we're going to get as, what's the word I'm looking for? As detailed, probably not. Put it this way, we probably won't have like Celtic or Italian or Eastern European. It'll be categories like film, TV, instrumental, film, TV, songs, folk, rock, pop, genres like that, but probably not breaking it down to different ethnicities, okay? So there you go. Adonis, I hope you watch the archive all the way to the end of the show, because I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to put this together, and I cannot begin to tell you how incredibly proud I am of you. I knew you when, buddy, and all of us who know you adore you. Your spirit is indomitable. Your work ethic is amazing, and you deserve everything that comes your way, everything good that comes your way. So I hope you make it back to the Road Rally this coming November. I don't know the dates for this coming Road Rally, but it's the first weekend in November. I think it might be like the 6th through the 9th, I think. Don't hold me to that, but it's right around there. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the show. And thank you for letting me enjoy my family and my vacation last week and not doing an episode of the show. Thanks so much. We will see you next week on another exciting episode of Taxi TV Live. Where's my cursor? Bye, you guys. Little applause, huh?